On a corner we have a poor person with a cup, panhandling. There's one photographer will come to the corner and he'll photograph with a 100mm lens from the opposite side of the corner and photograph that person. That photograph is observation only. You'll have a second photographer come along, he'll come straight and he'll walk quite close to that person with a wider angle lens and photograph that person, but that's description, purely description. Then you'll have the third photographer who will come along and he'll actually ask the beggar what he's doing in that position. Now his response to that saying is the picture. That's inside. That's the picture. My work as a photographer is really about telling stories. First and foremost, I am a storyteller, and that is the most important aspect of my work as a photographer. You know, I enjoy the craft of photography very much, and I work with big bellows cameras in the landscape, and sometimes with portraits as well. The craft I enjoy, but at the end of the day, it's about the story and about what that place, that person, or the story I'm telling is the ultimate, is the priority. It's about what pictures mean, and it has to be honest. In the mid-80s, when I was working at the Institute and I first came to realise and started getting a real direction in documentary photography and storytelling, I started work back in my own country. We say our own country, back there on the islands of the Bass Straits in Tasmania, Australia. Is where we go back and harvest the mutton birds every year. It's a very traditional cultural practice of Tasmanian Aboriginal people. We've been doing it for centuries, and it's a very highly regarded part of our cultural practice. And people, the population of Aboriginal people all over Tasmania will actually come to these islands for the big gathering and in big family groups. It was my first major project in a way of a photo essay, my first story. We get on to this next body of work here, which is in 1997, and this is about when in Melbourne, Australia, we was in a beach suburb called St Kilda, and it dealt with the issues of Aboriginal people living on the fringe of cities and the way they tried to deal with alcohol and drugs. Because as part of documentary photography is really about seeking the truth and hopefully creating awareness of social issues and injustices. The ultimate aim, of course, in documentary is to change social attitudes. There's a picture up there of all my friends underneath a tree, and if you go to most Australian cities, the big cities, Melbourne City, any city you like in Australia, you'll see a central park where a lot of Aboriginal people meet and drink and gather. So when asked about that picture, I said it's my favourite picture, and they said why, and I said, well, there's 20 years of my life in that picture. There's 20 years of my life in that picture, because this is the way we gather on land, even in big cities. The interpretation of Aboriginal people in Australia would say, oh, there's the old black fella underneath the tree with some wine, you know. Of course, that's their interpretation, that's their perception of that, whereas for us, it's totally different. The words to that particular picture is, we come here to talk of culture and other things. And certainly when those pictures were viewed in galleries in Australia, most white Australians were totally shocked by that. And yet, you know, it's simply telling stories about who we are, you know, what it means for us in our lives. What was really ironic about this body of work is that it became overtly autobiographical. And you can see by the self-portrait here, and it certainly helped me in my process, and I can gladly say it's been 12 years and I haven't drank any alcohol, so photography in a way I've always said has saved my life, because I put a lot of my energy back into my work and into my storytelling. Okay, down the far end there you'll see a series of 5 portraits. Those images, in fact, were done in northern Queensland, in the Gulf of Carpentaria, in a very remote region of Australia, and it was actually called Aurukun. And the reason why I'd done that body of work or went to that community was there was a big issue in Australia in the 90s about native title rights for Aboriginal people. So it involved the local land or original owners of the land who of course didn't have access to their own land, and between the farmers and the government. It was a huge, huge issue. But at the same time, those Aboriginal leaders and men and women in that community, the elders, it actually comes with an agreement with farmers and access and use of land as well. So major issues like land use and land rights can be amicably dealt with. And that proved the point. It was one of the biggest cultural issues ever to hit Australia in native title. The scars and the battle scars on those images, on those people, those faces, is something that really shines through in a way that it was an issue that not only involved 12 months of a political issue, but for these people it involved decades of political battle to get to that stage. I had big plans of going there doing landscapes, very much inside people's houses, very documentary style way of showing people's lifestyle and that, but I only came out with 5 images which really told the whole story. I spend a long, long time with people without it before I even produce a camera. It's about, and I don't say it's developing rapport, I say it's about building relationships, building friendships. I spend weeks, took me 5 weeks to get 5 pictures, and it all happened in the last 2 days. They came to me when I was ready. I put a lot of time and effort into spending time with those people. And when I take pictures of people, I always say to people, this is just as much your picture as is mine. The last images, the big images you actually see, works in progress still really, from that project, and the title of the exhibition, Portrait of a Distant Land. It really is about the epic saga, the epic story in a way. I'm now in my mid-50s and I've come to my experience in photography and storytelling. I've come to that stage where I need to tell a big story now. And this is one that seriously affects us people as Aboriginal people in Tasmania and Australia, about the way Australia records, constructs and misuses its history. A lot of the history that's been constructed in Australia is not quite true, and certainly we as Aboriginal people cannot continue to sort of go through our lives and let those sorts of opinion and views and constructed myths, if you'd like to call them, continue to happen, because it has incredible impacts on future generations and future societies as well. The education of Indigenous Australia, in a way, is a very sad and brutal story, and white Australia has chosen to hide that. And I've always said that Australia is one, that they've constructed a history of one, in brackets, one that suits themselves. So again, within the storytelling, within the documentary approach that I do with my work, it's about seeking the truth. We cannot go through our lives and live under a false history. It's about us working together, telling a true story. And as Aboriginal people, all we want is an acknowledgement and a recognition of us as Indigenous people of that country itself. That's not a lot to ask for. So, and I must say that last year this particular exhibition went to Paris, and it was very well received, beyond all expectations, because I think people, the way we're developing now in a modern world, attitudes are changing. People are becoming more aware and are more open to their changing ideals. So for me that's heartwarming, because we've got a lot of stories to tell. At the end of the day, the pictures really have to mean something. And for me, they mean everything. They're my life. I live it. It's a very important part of my culture. And hopefully people will come to a gallery or look at it in a book, just one picture. If one can communicate an idea, and hopefully in 50 years, if they see the same thing that I saw in that photograph, no matter what the picture is, it's a terrific picture and it tells a story. Thank you very much. Thank you.